Hello! Welcome to the Friends of Zeus podcast. This is episode 144. We got Dancing Mike on my left. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
And Dancing Zeus. Yeah, we gotta take it to the next level because just two of us tonight, so we have to really bring it for our fans.
We gotta jazz it up. We gotta go techno. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Wow.
So that didn't look.
Just leave it. Just let it lie. Just let it lie. Here we go.
Tonight we're gonna do Hamas versus Israel 2.0. We'll probably have a different title on the episode when you see it on YouTube, the 50 lovely motherfuckers of you out there. But yeah, we wanted to talk. It's been about a month, October,
almost 2 months. It'll be 8 weeks this Saturday.
Yeah, we should have a party. But yeah, there's been new developments. I want Mike, this is your ship to steer.
I'll get it
but
started.
I definitely have some input that I want to put in, that my observations since it happened and how it's affecting I'm going to use the word again, the zeitgeist, how people are responding to it. And it's so bizarre to me. But why don't you get the ball rolling, and I'll throw my noodles of genius in the middle.
That's good. Yeah. Well, welcome back,
noodles
everybody.
Of genius. I'm patenting that.
Yes. welcome back, everybody. So for today's episode, we're having an episode. Kind of wanted to do something a little bit different than we normally do. We're not trying to, with this story, we're not trying to tell people that we're figuring everything out, or that we want to try and convince anyone of anything. But I want to just have a kind of a bull session, just kind of talk about where we are, like update wise, like how everyone's feeling about this, or what's going on, or what our views are. Because there's so much happening. And if you look at the story about the Russia and Ukraine war as kind of a example, there's so much we don't know about what's going on in that Ukraine-Russia conflict. And there is so much we don't know that's going on in Gaza, in Israel. And there's a lot that, at least for myself, I see evidence of a real concerted effort in our gaslighting media to really twist this Israel-Hamas story, really to almost unbelievable contortions to fit their narrative. And it's really shocking. It's really shocking, and I find it hard to be shocked at anything anymore. But the blatant gaslighting, and just flat out lying and leaving facts out by our major news networks and things like that, and newspapers. It's really it needs to be highlighted, and people, whatever your viewpoints are on this, people need to kind of understand the game in the game that's going on here, because you have the Israel Palestinian Authority. Hamas is the ruling group there, basically, in Gaza right now. But you have that going on, which is hugely significant. But then you also have Russia, China, Iran, the United States, all these other countries like France, Turkey, sticking their noses into this thing. And it's getting linked to things going on in the Ukraine, as far as aid, as far as foreign policy for different countries involved. There's this whole other level that's going on. I mean, we have 2 aircraft carriers sitting in the Eastern Mediterranean. We have at least 1, maybe more, nuclear submarines stationed in the Eastern Mediterranean right now.
It's nuclear.
It's nuclear. Nuclear subs, or at least 1. So I just kind of wanted to update, and also just for posterity, because one thing I like doing, and I know Zeus does, and I know Jack does, and I know Tom and Desiree do as well, is we love going back into old episodes where we say things or make predictions that come true. We have to do a supercut episode one time, because it is
Oh
pretty
my God.
remarkable in the last
Yeah,
3 years
let
how
me
many things
digress
we've
for
been
one
ahead
second.
on. Yeah,
Let me digress for 1 second. Do you know
absolutely.
my stepbrother? He doesn't talk to me. But it's interesting. He was like a child genius. Worked for Yahoo when they were just Yah. You're like
Or
he
Yahoo.
yeah,
Yeah.
he graduated college at like fucking 17, like a genius. I won't use his name, but so anyway, he invented the term supercuts. Like
Mm.
he is the one that
And I just
began.
used it.
Yeah, and that's why I was bringing it up. But
Yeah.
anyway, if you look up who invented
Supercut.
supercuts, his name is going to be the one. So that's without outside of giving his name, that much I'll give you.
That's
But
cool.
brilliant guy. I've seen some videos of him. He's like big in like social media, but like old school. But anyway, just a little digression. Go
No, that's
back. Yeah, we
cool.
should definitely do a supercut of our old episodes because our predictions have been
And
pretty good. I'm not like not Nostradamus
yeah,
good, but
pretty good. And not even just predictions. It's more um, how we kind of view things and the framing and the questions we ask. There's just been so many things where 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 18 months after the episode, some story comes out and it's like, yeah, all right. And like we already said it, like
well, and like I said,
especially during COVID, that was happening all the time. We were just like saying things that 2 years later, everyone else catches up or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to lose the thread here. So what's going on?
um,
Everyone knows. I'm sorry.
no. I was just gonna agree with you. It's more that we get where the narrative is gonna go before. For me, it's like the writings on the wall. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Again, I'm gonna toot my own horn, but one day this is gonna be on T-shirts. It's choreography, not conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they plan for events that only an idiot wouldn't see coming, and then they capitalize on it. And
Mm-hmm.
the they is them, us, the little people, black, white, Asian, Native American, all us down here in the middle to lower tax bracket. It's us versus them. The them are the ones that are doing the choreography, and they're masterful at this point. That's my spin. That's how
Yeah.
I feel about it.
Yeah.
And
There's definitely a disconnect between in any society, in any culture, there are what we call these days like influencers, in social media. But even before the internet, before cell phones, there were what we would call influencers. There are people that kind
like
of
Dan
drive.
Rather,
Oh, yeah, I mean, in the old days, yeah, it would have been like a Dan Rather. I mean, there's people that kind of do a good job at kind of voicing what everyone's thinking, and how
NEC.
a certain story is kind of framed and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was something that we've had all the time, but now there's more of those people.
It's
It's
like on
fat.
steroids.
It's on steroids. It's faster because of social media, how things can spread, and in the way that social media um aggregates news stories like newspapers and things like that, and they pick stories to highlight and they pick stories that they ignore, right? So anyway, my point is there is a lot of what we used to call spin going on around the story, and it is blatant and it's everywhere. So let's just look at this situation again for those who have been living under a rock. We're talking about the situation that's going on right now in Israel, specifically in the Gaza Strip and just in that region, stemming from the October 7th terrorist attacks. There's no other way to put it. where 1,000 or more Palestinian soldiers, terrorists came in, crossed the
I
border.
would not say Palestinian. I would say Hamas. I
Well, I'm
firmly.
gonna get to that. So, came into central southern Israel and slaughtered 1,200, 1,400 people and took another 200 plus 240 some people hostage. Again, you've seen the videos, you've heard about it. I mean, killing women, children, men, teenagers, dogs, wildlife, burning houses, dismembering people, torturing people, all this sort of stuff. You want to talk about separating families? That's what was going on. So Israel has turned around, and their stated mission is to eradicate Hamas from the face of the earth. And now everyone, here's the typical way that this story gets broken down in the news. Everyone has to say how much they condemn the October 7th attacks in Israel. And that's 95% of almost anyone, no matter where they fall on this. Most people will condemn that. There are people out there that don't, but whatever. So that's one thing that most people have agreement on. After that, it totally just devolves.
Bonkers.
It goes bonkers after that. And I'm viewing things now, and when you look at like where at least the American media wants to take things, all of the onus to bring this all to a nice, beautiful end is put on Israel. It seems like everyone forgot that 7 weeks ago Hamas was, sticking infants in microwave ovens or whatever. And there's people that dispute that, whatever. I don't need to prove it when you've got corpses that are dismembered and stuff of like 9-month-olds. So, and it really, on one hand, people are like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. It's too awful. It's like, you have to hear about it. Like, people have to understand what went on over there, like viscerally, to understand what's going on now. In Gaza, you've got a population, the Palestinian population, that is occupying the same area that is being held by Hamas. Now, this population, if you follow the media, they are completely a separate entity from Hamas. You have Hamas, you have the Palestinians. This is the first thing I would really like to challenge, because although I heard that, and I'd like to believe it, because it makes a lot of decisions, a lot of things easier to decide. In the ensuing weeks, I've come to believe that I just don't believe that. I mean, I look at
No, to add to that, it's
they're not different. They are the same.
Yeah,
because
no. Actually, I disagree.
Okay, well, let me finish my point. So,
okay,
if you look at pictures of these Hamas, and I'll call them terrorists, militants, whatever. If you look at pictures of them, on their sleeve, they have their military, they're regulars, what we call regulars. They're in uniform, right? Mm-hmm. They've got the bands, they're wearing, what do they call that? Baklava, whatever. They've got badges and medals and things.
We don't need no stinking badges.
And on their left shoulder, they have the flag of the Palestinian flag, the red, green, and white flag with the little red triangle. That's on their sleeve. That's the flag that you're seeing flown throughout American colleges that are protesting against Israel defending itself. Hamas uses that flag. The people who are members of Hamas are Palestinian. The people that live in the Gaza Strip, I mean, here's my big question. Where's all the people that live in the Gaza Strip that are like, the Israelis are great, we don't want Hamas in here, please get rid of them? No one's saying that. And Hamas isn't even really letting people go. They want to hide among. Hamas wants to have as much as high civilian casualties as possible. And you just cannot fight a war. You cannot ask Israel to go in and deal with what they need to deal with, and then at the same time be like, oh, you can't have anything to do with this hospital, even though Hamas has a base under the hospital and they're storing weapons in the hospital. Hamas is the one making the choices to involve the civilians in this, if they are in fact just civilians. There's a story, and I'll jump to you in a second, Zeus. There's a story that I heard 2 days ago. It was, and I'll try and find the article and link it in the conversation after this episode. But it was a editorial written by a Palestinian man, young man in his 30s, I believe, born in Gaza Strip. He now lives in Israel. He converted to Judaism, and he has been very vocal about what it was like growing up in Gaza, what the experience is like, what it's like living with Hamas as your ruler, and the level of indoctrination from kindergarten on about how things about how Jewish people are the devil and Jewish people will kill you, and you need to kill the Jews. They're pumping this into their kids' minds in kindergarten, right? His father, he said, worked in Israel for 27 years and is one of the biggest haters of Jews that he's ever known. Like, he wants to kill them. He talks about killing them. People talk about killing Jews over there all the time. I mean, the idea, right, that Hamas is this occupying force that is there and against the will of the Palestinians is a canard. That is not true. It's just not true. And they're trying to push this like it is. And again, we can go back and look at World War II. I don't recall a lot of people complaining when Dresden was freaking flattened and hundreds of thousands of people were killed horribly, like civilians there. It's because it was Nazi Germany, and we were beating Nazi Germany, and they're in Germany. And whether or not they were members of the Nazi Party, I mean,
ain't no party like a Nazi party.
Right. I mean, you could argue they were giving aid and comfort. I don't see the rebellion going on. My point is, this is war. And if you look at it, if you say, Michael, what you're saying is ridiculous. You can't just have Israel go in there and take care of this issue, which is an existential threat to Israel. This is not, blood for oil or some sort of like crazy person that's trying to take over. These people had 1,400 of their fellow citizens slaughtered like animals by animals 7 weeks ago, right? And they want to make sure that never happens again, and they're going to make sure it never happens again. And I don't. To me, it's freaky to me when I see the members of the party in our country, the same people who use the media to gaslight us about domestic issues in this country, are also on TV gaslighting everyone now about what's going on over in Israel. I mean, no one talks about Iran. I mean, this is a proxy war. Hamas, Hezzbulah, the forces, the Houthis in Yemen, these are all proxy states of Iran. What are we doing? Biden is sending Iran, tons of money. They dropped the sanctions so they can sell oil to China and make tons of money. And they're fueling and funding this war. And meanwhile, we've got the people in the United States lamenting and complaining about how the brutality that the Jews are bringing into Gaza right now, or whatever. It's like everything's turned upside down. But anyway, I
understand your point of view. I disagree. I think that I would be interested to find out what the economic status was in Germany around World War II. One would think that since they were mainly angry at the Jews because they were money lenders and all that things were not good. So the Germans would kind of turn their head to things that they knew were going on, but as long as they didn't see it, it didn't exist. A lot easier back then without the availability of cell phone cameras and stuff like that. So my argument is that perhaps they, again, kind of like what Yuri was talking about, I think they have reached in their little part of the world the normalization period. I think any Palestinian that I've ever met, they're kind. And to be fair, Palestinians that are here are generally here because they want to be here. So they're going to have softer dispositions on a lot of these things. But anyway, they all seem kind. And most Muslims that I've met, in fact, all Muslims that I've met, are kind people. In fact, I would say in many cases far kinder than Christian white Anglo-Saxon Protestants that I know. They're very sweet, kind people. So my thing is I do not agree that the general populace of Gaza Strip supports Hamas. I think that they have just succumbed to the oppression, and as long as they treat it like it's normal, nothing will happen to them. So I do disagree with you. I don't think that, at least maybe on the surface it looks that way. I can certainly endorse how it would look that way. But I just don't agree. I think I still have faith in the world. I think that people don't wake up wanting to eradicate an entire race of people. And in the universal standpoint, it's a race of people. We're all human. So now we got to segregate that. Like if we travel to the stars and we start meeting other people, we're all just earthlings. Fuck all
right.
You know what I mean?
But
we're all just humans. And I think that humans, as a general rule, do not wake up with hate in their heart.
So where are all of the Palestinian groups that are demanding Hamas leave Gaza, and that the Jews, they shouldn't be killing Jews? I haven't heard one Palestinian group say that.
Man, they don't have the guns.
But I'm saying here in this country,
thing that we've got going for us is that we have the right to have a way to protect ourselves. It was built into the Constitution that we are able to rise up against a tyrannical, government and all that. I think I was never a pro-gun guy, but I'm definitely more in that. I'm going to have a firearm soon, but I'm going to keep it like 6 miles away. But the point being is, I think that is really one of the things that separates us in America from everywhere else in the world. We have laws for the guns, so you have to follow certain rules to have them. But overall, we have that going to our benefit.
But what about Palestinians in the U.S.?
Well, so here's
why aren't they getting out there and denouncing this? I don't. My point
how
is,
do you know they're not? How do you know they're not?
Because I don't see it. I've been looking. I don't see it. I go to their web. I go to Al Jazeera. I check out MSNBC. I don't see it. I don't see any walkouts. I don't see any organizations being like, we stand with peace. Get Hezzbulah the hell out of here. I mean, Hezzbulah is keeping citizens from leaving, or are they? I mean, there was a story that came out today, Zeus, about this Russian Israeli, right? He was working as a sound tech at the music festival, right? And he witnessed what happened. 200 plus kids getting slaughtered, throwing grenades into bunkers that had people cowering for their lives, blown to bits by these people. Anyway, so my point is he's an Israeli, a Russian Israeli dual citizen. He was kidnapped by Hamas during that, and he was held in Gaza. And about 20 days, he was just released today. Like 20 days after he was there, his building got hit by a missile, an Israeli missile, because they were storing the hostages in places where they had their
I know.
armaments and other people. So of course Israel targeted. He was in the building next door. The building collapsed that he was being kept in, and he escaped. And he lived in the rubble in Gaza City for 4 days, like just eating whatever you could find, surviving. And
Yeah.
you know what happened to him? He was caught by civilian Palestinians in Gaza, and they turned him over to Hamas.
Yeah,
So,
but
and you could
again,
say, well, my point is, they weren't like, and they beat him. You know, they weren't like, hey man, here, we're gonna take you to the border so you can get out of here. What? There was nothing like that. They turned them back over to Hamas. My point is, how do we have this narrative that everyone in Gaza, right? Even though everything I'm hearing is from the river to the sea, we have to eradicate the Jews. Why do we, blah, 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 blah. They aren't supposed to be here, even though they've been there in Judea, Samaria for 4,000 plus years. I mean, they're the indigenous people there. My point is, how is it that this narrative, this belief is that there's all these people that are living in Palestine that are just innocent, right? They have nothing to do with this. I'm like, they elected these people. They had an election. Israel pulled out of Gaza in 2005, pulled 10,000 of their own citizens out of there, pulled the IDF forces out of there. We're like, you guys can have it. Because Gaza used to belong to Egypt. Israel took it during the 67 war, and they owned it. And they gave it to the PA, Palestinian Authority. They said, here, take it. We're not even coming in. It's your land. Now, Gaza, when Egypt had it, was filled with vineyards. It was beautiful. It had factories there. It was wonderful. Now it's a shithole, right? Or it was a shithole before this. So in 2005, Israel's out. Since 2005, it has been completely governed by Palestinians themselves. They elected Hamas, and that was the last time they ever had an election. Now, these people haven't tried to write anything about revolting. It's all about kill the Jews. And my whole thing is, in our country, people are like, man, when Israel ends up winning this, because they will, and they're going to destroy Hamas, and anyone that was ever a member of Hamas is going to be executed, right? So once that happens, you've got the rest of the world already saying like, okay, so Israel's got to pull out, and they got to give the Palestinians this, and they got to give them some of the West Bank. I'm like, whoa. Since when does the whole rest of the world get to tell Israel how they're going to do their business after they win the war? Israel's completely justified to go in and completely flatten Gaza, and that's it. I don't understand morally how anyone can say they don't have the right to do that. And where are all the other Arab countries? Where's Egypt? Why aren't they bringing them people into the Sinai Peninsula? Why isn't Iran evacuating? Why aren't they being sent to Lebanon? What in the hell is going on here? Right? No one ever talks about that, but everyone puts it on Israel. Like this is Israel's responsibility, even though Hamas is taking citizens and putting them in places where they know they're going to get hurt. It's just and to see our media so hook, line, and sinker pushing this, I'm just like, why? Well, and why is up always down, and why is down always up with our media? Why is that?
I'm going to answer your question with my disagreement.
Yeah, that's fine.
With what you just said. America has huge. We don't export anything anymore, but what we do export is information. And if we are promoting the side that you and I don't necessarily agree with, which is Hamas, then I think that people just want to get along with their lives. They want to exist and not have to deal with all the craziness. Except when you get into these disenfranchised youth. The youth are a real problem right now, like huge. One of the things that I've noticed since this happened is that there's all these people that are saying they're pro-Palestine, and they're not pro-Palestine, they're pro-Hamas. But They don't realize it because they're young and they're stupid.
And they're being preached to by people our age and older who are in the media and know what they're doing. They know they're lying. Like, that's the
So
thing that kills me. They know that they are lying, the people in the media that are doing this.
again, the average German in World War II may have known what was going on, but they just normalized. Again, Yuri Bezmenov is a freaking genius as far as I'm concerned. It got normalized. It was safer to go with the plan, the status quo, whatever was going on around there. It was safer for them and theirs, except for in a situation like Anne Frank, which I think I just read something about they're changing the name of Anne's museum because it's not socially acceptable. That's frightening. That could
But
be
her name is not acceptable. What are they
I
saying?
think her name is associated with German atrocity, and that's what. That could be all bullshit. So let's not.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
But I think the average German knew what was going on. I mean, there's got to be a smell that you get from people burning a mile down the road,
Yeah.
or 5 miles down the road. I think that you get into this place where you just go, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Well, there's
you got your kids that you have to tell this to. Don't worry about that. It's a paper mill. It's a steel mill. It's coal, whatever. And you start to convince yourself. And so when you say that when I look at Palestine, I look at perhaps naive, maybe as supportive as they can justify in their hearts, but I don't think that they support Hamas. I think they prefer a more peaceful government that is not putting them in harm's way all the time.
They have a funny way of showing it, Zeus.
Well, no, I'm saying the people, not Hamas.
I'm saying they have a funny way of showing it. There's like zero pushback. I mean, they're not pushing back.
But dude, remember when Lena was on and she said that all the social media and all the internet and everything was being cut off from us? Why is that any different in this situation? Maybe we're not seeing it because it's not being delivered.
But also, if you look at Iran's a good analog to this, because you did hear about it. You hear about it today in Iran. There is a very vocal and active expat community of Iranians in the United States that go out of their way to denounce the theocracy of the mullahs in Iran and the Ayatollah, and they hate them, and they are very quick to be like, I love America. I can't wait till those people are gone so I could go back to my country. But you don't see it you don't see people who proclaim to be Palestinian do that. No, I don't see a single one. I mean, I'd love to see it.
I think it's safer for them not to. And to that, I want to believe that the general Palestinian population is not anti-Israel. I mean, so what I'm getting at is I think that information is not being delivered. And generally I don't disagree with you this vehemently, but
that's fine. No, that's cool. I'm not trying to tell you anything.
I don't think parents want to put their kids in harm's way. I don't think kids want to go to war. I do believe that Hamas has got a stranglehold on the populace, and that, I mean, listen, man, I've said it on the last Hamas versus Israel episode. Man, you growing up in a world where we are so sheltered here, where they're growing up in a world where there's constant battle, and not like this verbal shit that we do here, this wordplay and keywords and social media, destruction of society. They got real shit going on. They walk outside. I bet you think the playgrounds are bare here. I'll bet they're barren there. I'll bet you that you don't see kids.
Why are they barren? Gaza is not poor. Like Hamas its leaders, the four guys that run Hamas, are multi-billionaires. They live in Qatar.
But that's what I'm getting at, is that
they get hundreds of millions of dollars from the rest of the world free of charge every year. Like, there's no reason why Gaza shouldn't be Monte Carlo for the 21st century. I mean, there's no reason it should be a shithole that it is right now, other than the fact that the ruling people in Hamas don't care about the people. They don't care about the country. The only thing they care about is they kill Jews. But where do they get their people from? Hamas is not some outside organization that came in and is feeding off of the Palestinian population. Hamas, who do you think they are? They are Palestinians. They're people that were born there, and taught to hate Jews and indoctrinated.
Here's what I'll say. Every member of Hamas is Palestinian, but every Palestinian is not Hamas.
Well, they're wearing the Palestinian flag on their uniform, and it's the same flag that supporters are also waving.
I can put a uniform from 1939 Soviet Russia.
I gotcha, but
it doesn't make me a Russian. I don't think that you can manipulate.
I'm losing you a little bit. You're freezing up. Oh, man. We're going to have to use this for the intro. This is awesome. You're completely frozen now. I don't know if you can hear me. Freeze frame. Hold on. Where is your... Why don't I have you in here? I hate this new iOS update. And I lost you. Wait, can you see that?
I'm getting back on. It's the internet here.
It's the internet.
I can't complain because I get it free, but
yeah, I wouldn't complain, man. It's fine.
Hold on.
I'm waiting for you to come on back on. It's good.
Okay.
I think we found our intro though. Okay, I'm gonna hang up now.
Hamas is
Hamas. All right. Okay, there we go.
I understand. I think it's far easier to just assume that the entire population of Gaza is supportive of Hamas, but I think it's fair to say that there were people that hid in Anne Frank in their attic, and they were in great jeopardy for it. I think that.
Okay, so the Anne Frank example, the Russian-Israeli guy that escaped when his building collapsed was caught and turned over by these people. At least in Germany, they put her in the attic, for crying out loud. These guys took her and gave her right back to the Third Reich.
But we don't know who that group was. Maybe they were friendly to maybe, I don't know what city it was in, but maybe it was a more Gaza or more Hamas-friendly area. There's a lot of X factors.
But how about Ozcom's razor, which we always talk about here? Isn't it? I mean, and again, I'm arguing this like in a debate club, Zeus. I'm not trying to convince you, and I'm just making the point. What if the Palestinian people are 100% behind Hamas? They hate the Jews. They want them all to die. I mean, how would we know that? Because our media would not tell us that. Our media is doing everything they can.
How would we know what you're thinking is right?
Because I don't see any evidence discounting what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't see anyone saying I'm wrong.
I don't see any evidence that says that the population of Gaza is in full support of Hamas.
Well,
I think we have to.
So are we? If we're down to a percentage, now we're talking about, like, is it 80%? Is it 50%? Who knows? I just know it's not 0%. I mean, the idea.
Of course not. You get these young, dumb, full of kids out there that are there. They just want to be heroes to their people. They got indoctrinated at the right time, and they do that. Again, just with your argument, and I think this is valid. You can disagree, but where it could be a big part. Maybe this guy was trapped in capital city Hamas, where fucking everybody that lives there is benefiting from this. We don't know that. So that in mind, perhaps that did happen exactly as he said it, but he might have been in the area, which probably wasn't mentioned in whatever article you read, that he was in the core,
like their gang area, like their heavy stronghold. Okay,
so
yeah,
maybe
I mean,
that did happen. You know what I mean?
And we don't know.
Right. My biggest problem with all of this right now is what's happening in America with it, where maybe I'm just on the algorithm, and I'd like to say it's a good one because it opens my eyes to a lot of stuff, but there's so many people that, again, as I said before, say they're pro-Palestine, but what they really are is pro-Hamas. And that, on so many levels, bothered me. A vision that is going to resonate in my mind until I eventually get Alzheimer's and go bonkers is the image of that guy that was lying on the ground and they're burying a shovel in his chest and he's reaching out. And I can only think that in your dying breath, you're reaching out to whoever's there. You're seeing whatever you need to see to hopefully survive. And they're still burying this shovel in his. That's always, it hurts my heart to think of somebody dying like that.
Yeah.
And so
children killed in front of their parents and vice versa. I mean,
I am not
unspeakable stuff.
I am not anti-Palestine. I am not pro-Israel. I'm pro the people in the middle that are.
Okay. And I'm not asking to have the answer, and I'm sorry for cutting you off. I don't need to have the answer right now, but to think my question back to you would be, so what does it look like? What does this look like afterwards? After this, because the Israelis and the PA have had, this is like the 16th time that serious shit has broken out, and this is probably the most serious, probably since the 67 war.
Oh, this is their 9/11.
So, but my point is, it's like, so what changes in this? I mean, here's what I see. I see a little country of like, what, 6 million people ish. That's a size of New Jersey. It's a democracy. It's surrounded by people that want them dead and they want their land, and they're not a democracy. They're surrounded by people that are an autocracy. And they are not, they talk about the two-state solution. They're not interested. Two-state solution. I mean, they had Gaza for 18 years and they turned it into a terrorist hornet's nest. So
it's Yemen next to Israel.
I mean, my thing is, I just get so, I don't understand. And it's for someone that follows media as much as I do, I still am like, how can they be so callous as to make this about domestic politics too?
That's what bothers me about this youth. Like, do you not see, like regardless of the political standpoint and all that, there is an evil in butchering somebody, filming it, and sending it out into the world. Butchering alone, evil. Filming, evil plus. Fucking sending it out to the world, evil ultra plus. Like, you want to think about it like a cell phone, that is the ultimate in evil. You are braggadocious, I like that word, about your murder. Like, for me, if I were to murder someone, I'd be like, keep it on the QT. I don't want that associated with me. There is a level, and I speak of Hamas. I want to make this clear. I am pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, middle people. Everybody else, I put all of that carnage on October 7th on Hamas. I think everybody that did it was a team player. Anybody involved should be put down.
They're going to be, yeah.
Fucking done. But I want to make that clear that that's where I stand. I am anti-Hamas.
But
If Hamas runs the world one day, I'll take the bullet in the head because they are pieces of shit.
there are people in Palestine that turn these people into heroes and martyrs.
There's always going to be that. Look at the youth in America that have confused pro-Hamas with pro-Palestine. They have, because of how it's being delivered, which it still blows my mind, because when you see those images, how you could think anything other than Hamas is evil, I don't understand.
My whole thing is, to me, and I'm just, this is just where my gut is right now, man. It's like, to me, if I was a Palestinian by birth, like if I was born a Palestinian, I would be in front of every camera I could possibly fucking find denouncing this stuff. I would be trying to organize. I'd be like, hey, man, no, dude, these people aren't, this isn't, I mean, they're very sophisticated, but any populace can usually take over occupational force. I mean, it's happened a million times. I mean, no one can take over Afghanistan. Those guys are nuts. My point is, it's zero pushback. I see
don't
zero
piss off
pushback.
The Afghanistanis now.
Yeah, man, don't. Yeah, I see zero pushback from any Palestinian organization, and I'm not anti Arab people, Muslim people, whatever. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, do what you want to do. But
that's
when you film, what?
That's actually the attitude people need to be taking more often is, you do your shit, leave us out of it.
But as long as your shit,
everybody's so involved in fucking everything now.
But as long as your shit doesn't involve murdering a mother and father and then forcing their 9-year-old son to watch the tape of you murdering them again and again and again and again, which, oh, by the way, happened. Yeah, to the 9-year-old that got released today. So,
I saw that.
This isn't, and so for people to say like, oh, well, we need to have a ceasefire. I'm like, a ceasefire? 1,400 people were slaughtered. Babies pulled out of their mother's wombs that weren't born yet, right? So it's like all these people that are like, oh, there's been 10,000 Palestinians. Hamas is telling you that. They never say how many of those people were combatants, how many people were Hamas versus regular civilians. And if they're regular civilians, are they people that are like peaceful, or are they supporting Hamas? I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, I don't understand.
I just don't think that we're at a place where we can make that judgment yet.
I'm saying this is an update. I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm not trying to get to any final determination.
I think we're 8 weeks in. If suddenly, we see 6 million people standing in front of the capital of Gaza, whatever. I don't know the name. I don't care to right now. But if we see something that shows that was, if we see something that shows that what you're alluding to is a fact, I am more than willing to change my mind.
I think so too. I know you enough to know. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to I'm like, of course.
You're not going to.
If you accept my premise, I have no doubt you will feel that way. You're not going to be like, oh man, I want them to slaughter Jews. I know you're not going to say that.
No, but to a degree, I also have to bring up that I have also seen videos of Palestinians that live in Israel, and they're very happy to be there. They commend they commend Israel on letting them live there, and so again, people are people. I don't think 80% of the population is going to be evil. If not, it's going to be a full 100%. It's going to be Nazi Germany. It's going to be Stalin's Russia. It's going to be Mussolini's Italy. I think that I'm holding out, and maybe to my chagrin, I'm holding out faith that Palestinians as a whole are good people. Some were manipulated, probably. And again, I think with your case of the guy that was the sound man or whatever, I really do feel like we got to know more about that. Where was
Understood. I got you. Yeah. I'm just saying, I know it's all anecdotal. I'm just saying I don't see any anecdotes going the other way.
Well, we
that's-
don't see any anecdotes really.
Well, I mean, I do, but I don't see any anecdotes of Palestinians standing up and I'm not talking about denouncing what happened on October 7th. You realize there's a lot of people in our own Congress that have a problem coming down hard on Hamas, right? I mean, they'll say, "Oh, I denounce what they did," but they support everything else about them. I mean,
Which is ridiculous.
to your point about the Palestinian person who would be living in Israel proper and enjoying it, I would say a little thought experiment for anyone that's thinking about all this stuff is, as a person, you know, if whether you have kids or not, say you have kids, say you have, you know, a couple kids, your wife, you know, would you, and you had to pick whether or not you would like want to live under Hamas rule?
No,
right?
and that doesn't evade me. I know.
No, and what I'm saying is,
happy, cheery place. Yeah,
I'm saying Israel is a modern civil society with laws, right? And it's rule of law. It's not rule of man. It's not an autocracy. It's not a theocracy. It's not. You don't have to be Jewish to live there.
Yeah, but okay, but my argument
welcome everybody in.
My argument to that is everybody that is Israeli has to join the military. So let's not paint it as a perfect democracy. If you're opposed to it,
right,
and you still have to be part of the military. So let's not. I'm not anti-Israel.
But they voted for that, and they could say no.
That's fine. That's fine. But,
right. It's not. It's conscription, but it's because they're such a small country and they're surrounded here.
But let's not call it a perfect democracy.
Oh, I'm not. No, nothing's perfect. No, but, I mean, of course not.
And that does paint them or paint the Israelis as a not warmongering but war friendly society, in that everybody is prepared to battle. And listen, when I was in the army, I wanted to break skulls and shoot my gun. It becomes part of your societal mental makeup. So again, I'm not anti-Israel, and I actually think that maybe that would be a great thing in our country, is actually to have everybody should be.
Likewise, that's a good episode to do. I didn't used to think that, but I do believe now that I'm past military age, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Now that my vagina won't get shot.
Right. I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
I mean, maybe not the way they're doing it, where everybody has to do it, but maybe like financial incentives, tax breaks for everyone that has their child join the military. They don't have to go to war, but they have to be trained so they can protect the country that they live in.
I just think if everyone had to serve, I think we'd be in less wars.
Yeah. Honestly, you know what my solution is? Let's take a big chunk of land in Nebraska and give it to Israel. Take it.
Yeah, but we already did that, and it's called Israel.
Yeah, but let's do it in Nebraska where we can keep an eye on things, and the people that hate them are surrounded.
If there were Jews in Nebraska 4,000 years ago, they may go for that, but I don't know if they're going to go for that.
And I get that there's the religious sites. That part does make sense. There are religious sites there, and I'm not blind to the fact that like every time they've gone for peace talks, Israel shows up. Hamas is persona non grata.
Well, even before Hamas, it was Arafat. I mean, the PLO.
Yeah. And Arafat got the Nobel Peace Prize. So how fucked up is this world?
I mean, if you look at someone
tablecloth fucking burqa or whatever it's called,
Kerfefe. If you look at and you can find this on YouTube. It was like some speech or something that Bill Clinton was giving back in like 2015 or whatever. And he was talking about the Israeli-Palestine situation. And he was lamenting. He was saying, this is Bill Clinton saying, during his presidency, that he had given Arafat everything they wanted, every single thing they wanted during his presidency, during the one negotiation where they gave them all of the Gaza Strip. They're going to give them 97% of the West Bank, plus compensatory extra land that was also in Israel, and reparations. and their Fed turned them down. So I'm saying they got 97% of what they wanted, and they turned it down. And so, because the reason they turned it down, when you start looking at all of this information in total, it's because they hate the Jews and they want to kill them all. They can't stand having the Jews there. That's why they want to kill them. I mean, you talk about ethnic cleansing. That's what they want to do, and they come right out and say it. And Hamas, that's what they want to do.
Well, I believe even in World War II that Palestine was in support of Hitler, and I that could be wrong. I don't want to be.
Well, there was some, yeah. I mean, there was Arab, Egypt and stuff like that were in line. I mean, look, the Jews have been hated for thousands of years by a lot of people, and I'm just saying, when I'm just Michael, the consumer of news and like reading stuff, and I see one group of people that are like, inventing things and have universities and have a civil society, and then I see the country next door that's like sending rockets over every 5 seconds, and instead of they're dismantling their public sewer system to make rocket launchers, and they're taking hundreds of millions of dollars, instead of building hospitals, they're building tunnels under hospitals to put militants in.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that. That is appalling to me.
It's crazy, man.
And they capitalize on the West's sensitivity towards hospitals. Like, hospitals are next to churches here.
Yeah, exactly.
I often, as a psych nurse, I have patients and they come in and they're like, this is so bad, and I'm locked in here, and it's like, look, man, this is a hospital. I took this job to help people. You can believe me, you don't have to believe me, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to help you. And maybe you'll get that, maybe you won't. So hospitals here are maybe different than a lot of the world, because there is a sanctity to being in a hospital.
No, I think there is. I mean, that's what makes it so
egregious. To put a hard target, not a soft target, or to put a hard target under a soft target is barbaric. And again,
and then to blame the Israelis for when they go in there. I mean, look what happened to that hospital.
They didn't bomb it, though. That's the thing. They didn't bomb it.
And
they went and surgically struck.
But look how
tried to take out as few people. I hate Hamas. I don't hate Palestinians, but I do hate Hamas.
Look at our media from a few weeks ago when that hospital in Gaza got hit by the rocket that was launched from within Gaza, and it misfired and hit the hospital. I mean, this was during the first episode we were talking about. The worldwide media, all of the alphabet media in our country, the party media, the gaslighting media, wall to wall, we're talking about how it was Israel that sent a missile into that hospital, like without any evidence. That 500 people had died. There were riots throughout the world. There were businesses burned. There were schools where people walked out in the United States. There were people that were like beaten, right? And it was all a lie. And it was put out by our media and the world media, because they have an agenda. And what is that agenda? I don't even freaking know. I have
no clue what the agenda of the United States is now.
And then it came out that it was all a big lie, that they lied, and then they didn't apologize for it. They didn't go back and correct it. Or if they did, it was on page like 29. So what the hell's going on here? And so it's like anything else. It's like they try to control the speech by controlling the thought. And if you walk around and you say, what the fuck is up with Palestinians, and where aren't they? Why aren't they coming out more against Hamas? People look at you like you have 3 heads. But I'm like, if it was anyone else in the world, wouldn't you be saying that? I mean, any other people involved in this? Because, I've been walking around for 5 or 6 years now, and because I'm who I am, I'm assumed to be a white supremacist, and I'm like,
dude, I've been accused of it. What are you fucking talking to me about?
That's my point. For absolute nothing.
Beautiful, fucking perfectly sculpted.
For nothing at all. Look, nothing at all. There's no reason for them to be saying it. And then when I see it blatantly, right in front of my face, and I
Dude.
call it out. People are like, "What are you talking about? That's crazy."
For
How can you possibly
posterity,
say
is
that?
there anybody that you know less white supremacist, racist, fucking I love everybody
Yeah,
until
man.
they hate them.
Yeah.
And yet I have to defend that all the time. But guess what? I've done a pretty good job defending it. I use logic. I use
You don't even have to defend it. It's like,
but I do because I need to feed my kids.
yeah, I know. I got you. I know what you mean. I know.
And I'd like to get to a place where I don't have to do that anymore.
So where's your benefit? Where's the benefit of the doubt for Zeus?
Right? Well, I got about $5,000 going to benefit for Zeus soon. Totally scratch that out.
I know. I can't, dude. That's gonna take time.
I'm just kidding.
I saw two signs today in my neighborhood, and one of they were both done by the same person, even though they're about a mile apart, because they were both on clear, like that clear sleeve that you can stick an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in, like if you have a binder.
So they can change their sign each week.
Yeah, and it was zip tied to like a street sign at a median about a mile apart. These two signs, and I wrote this down. One side says, "Your tax dollars kill children and women in Palestine." The other one said, "If you support Ukraine but not Palestine, you are a hypocrite." And I was like, what is that even supposed to mean?
Dude,
like, I don't even
firebomb that house.
I mean, how am I supposed to support Palestine when Hamas
how
went
about
in and
the
killed
idiocy of
1,400
painting
people?
with such broad strokes?
I know.
Automatically, I want you out of the gene pool.
And then I thought to myself, I'm like, I want to get on my car and rip that sign down because it's just
right.
So, but you know what? I didn't, because you know why? I hate it when people rip signs down because it's so stupid. It's like, I'd rather just leave that sign up there so everyone can see how stupid other people are.
How much of an idiot lives in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's appalling. And it's appalling how, here's the thing also about this whole pro-Palestine is really pro-Hamas thing, is that regardless, these kids, and it's mostly younger people and Karens that are like supporting this theory that they're both the same. And again, I know that you kind of do feel that way, but for me, the appalling thing is how callous they are about their accusations of, I don't know, man. It's like, I don't get how death and destruction can be talked about on such a water cooler level. Does that make sense?
Yes. No.
When I talk about this shit, I get fucking passionate.
Yeah.
We're disagreeing, but this is one of the things that our show is supposed to be about, and I love that we're doing this. I completely disagree with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not trying to
disagree with me. But maybe I put a chink in your armor. And I think I did when I was like, maybe let's look at the area that it was. Like, there's things to question. And I didn't go, you fucking idiot, why did you fucking think about that? I said, perhaps we don't have the whole picture. And again, I don't think a whole populace votes for evil. I think that Hamas getting in there was a rigged election. I mean, fucking Gaddafi was in actually Gaddafi in
that was Libya. Yeah.
Was maybe not the worst of all these guys.
Isn't that weird? I mean,
still bad.
But that's
still
what
bad, but not the worst.
But that's what the superpowers learned back in the 50s, was that if you have these strong men, right? The Saddam Husseins, the Gaddafis, the Shah of Iran, if you have these these strong men in these countries that are under your thumb, that's great. I mean, there is a lot of people in geopolitics. And let me clarify, I'm not saying it's great. I'm saying there's a lot of people in geopolitics during the Cold War, especially in the 50s and 60s. That was the MO, man. It's like you get a country that, is being run by some autocratic jerk face, and we were okay with it because he was our jerk face.
There's two examples that I'll give of just the bizarreness of all of it. One was when Ollie North went, he was speaking disposed in Congress, and he's like, I have my house set up with the greatest security you could possibly imagine. I got fucking soldiers outside my house. I got fucking laser guns that shoot at people if they come up. And he goes, that's all to protect me from the most dangerous man in the world. And this was in 19, what? When was the Iran-Contra stuff? Because I think that's when he said it.
Like 86, 87?
So 86. And he's like, and they're like, who is that person? You know the name that he said?
No.
Osama bin Laden.
Wow.
The other one that stands out, oh shit. I lost my track with the Osama bin Laden one. Well, I mean, like Osama, man, that's a whole thing too. Oh, did you see this thing recently about this letter that Osama bin Laden wrote? And it was like they're talking about how eloquent he was and how evil, you know.
Right.
That one bothered me a lot. We could talk about that for a while.
Well, that's again, that is our media indoctrinating our youth with the idea that the United States is some horrible place, that it's white supremacy, that we created slavery, and in our country is horrible. So when you read that letter it's called Letter to America from Osama bin Laden, they're reading it with a heart that is sympathetic. They're finding common ground with Osama bin Laden. Our college students are listening to Osama bin Laden and being like, "Oh yes, master, yes, you are absolutely correct.
You don't have to
please let me follow you."
The fact that he was an intelligent person.
Of course, he was intelligent.
He orchestrated the top 3 terrorist attacks on a country ever done, and masterfully. He got people that weren't even from the fucking country that he was defending to do it. They were mostly Saudi Arabians. Granted, he was Saudi Arabian, but he got people that weren't in Afghanistan. Like, he got people to follow his words. So to say that he wasn't articulate, to say that he wasn't smart would be a fool.
Yeah,
error.
I mean, that's a silly insult to give to somebody anyway. But I mean, not that you have to like say how great they are, but
right, exactly. That's my point. Is you can acknowledge that brilliant. You could even say brilliant. I'm not supporting him at any level. You could say Hitler was brilliant. Hitler united Europe.
Look, I will say, from if you look at it from an economic and a planning versus result outlook situation, the September 11th attacks in the United States are probably the single most devastating attack in the history, a military attack in the history of human beings. I mean, you're talking about something that has
Pearl Harbor was kamikaze guys. They had enough fuel to get to Pearl Harbor. Fuck it, I'll just do it.
But what I'm saying is, this was 20 people, 19 that ended up doing it, and the total budget, according to the 9/11 report, was like $250,000, $300,000.
And they did it all under our noses. They trained here, because why would somebody that lives here fucking get on a plane? It was brilliant. I mean,
and look how, Zeus, look back, because we're getting up there, so we're old enough to remember 22 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about an event that you can point to one point in time that dramatically changed all of our lives for the last 22 years.
And in a bad way, like Patriot Act.
In a bad way.
Fucking fully against the Patriot Act.
That we did to ourselves.
But they used it. It was choreography versus conspiracy. They were waiting for the event. They knew that maybe not then, maybe 30 years later, maybe now, that something was going to happen where they could put that in and gain a little more control. And
it was Saudi Arabians that did it, and it was not Iraq, and yet we went in and destroyed Iraq, and we were told it wasn't Saudi Arabia. Because Saddam Hussein
tried to shoot George Bush's daddy. And as much as I like George W. more now than I did then, I will stick by 2 things. There was nobody better in the White House at the time that happened than George W. And I think that he has changed. I think that he is a different person now. I think that he's got a lot of guilt, and he makes up for it with his like wounded warriors and all that. I'm not saying he's a great guy, but I think he might have been better than I thought he was.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I'm not killing him, but he definitely started that war because they tried to kill his daddy. And he probably didn't even like his daddy. His daddy was disappointed with him all the time. He was not the one that George Sr. wanted in the White House. It was Jeb.
Well, I can't talk about the Bushes, man. I mean, they're just
Creeps.
I don't know. It's like a whole other. I had a lot more respect for him back when he was president. Now it's like I look around, I'm like, where the hell is he, man? He never talks.
I would want to get out of the fucking limelight if I was.
But he's either like a party member or he's just like a coward because he just never says anything. And it's like
blame him?
I understand. No, I understand wanting to be out of the public eye, but when you're president, you take an oath to like defend the country.
Hold on, sing a song. I'll be right back.
Squeaky chair, I've got my squeaky chair. I like to. Is it squeaking? No. See, now when I want it to squeak, it doesn't squeak. So now that Zeus isn't here, there's something I've been really wanting to talk to everyone about here on the Friends of Zeus podcast. And I think we need to talk about what we're getting Zeus for Christmas. I'm thinking a wig or maybe a punching bag. If you have any ideas, send them over to us.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. I didn't like him at first, George W. And it was probably a few years after that I really started, well, on 9/11 or the days following, him showing up and being a possible target completely, and we didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was bold, unless he knew that he was safe because he knew what was going on, maybe.
Right.
But I doubt that. He didn't strike me as our smartest president. But assuming that he was not involved, and I do not think he was, I think he was brave. I think that the words that were given to him to give to us, he said with eloquence, and he emboldened us. I didn't feel less safe after hearing his speech that night, which I don't know how you felt, but at the time, again, it's all about at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was 6 years later, he'd sound like a buffoon. But anyway, I just, opinions will change. I really, honestly, at this time, I hate to say this because I don't like the guy, but I think Trump would have handled this already in a positive fashion. We wouldn't look at it that way because he's such a bold prick, but
I don't know, man. It's like there's this assumption that everyone's like, well, Trump. I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, if I judge people on their actions, not on what they say, I don't see any real crazy actions from him. I mean,
it's not crazy.
He's been very good. It's like the economy was better. No wars. People weren't dying. I mean, it was like, I don't understand. One of my
biggest arguments against him is that he kind of did make us look like idiots.
For what?
A surface area. In retrospect, I think he probably did lead the country far better.
How did he make us look like idiots?
What Biden's doing? What?
How did he make the U.S. look like they were idiots? We had more respect than we have in years.
Did they not, or did they find him unhinged and he would say and do whatever he wanted to?
He kind of played the role of like, he was like very adamant, like America first. That's what I'm interested in. And
I get that, and I've changed my attitude on him. You don't have to sell me on him.
No, I'm not. But he also held his cards. People were afraid of him. And when I say people, I mean I'm talking about like foreign countries.
I
They didn't know what to
I don't
do.
want people to fear us because fear.
I want
breeds-
people to fear us, then they won't attack
No,
us.
I want people to respect us because we're a kind and generous country, which we are.
Well, when Putin, when what was that thing that Putin like hit us in Syria, and Trump like within like 2 hours like sent some missiles and planes in and killed like
That's
300
fine.
Russian mercenaries, and
That's not
Putin and
fear,
Putin
though.
and Putin didn't do it anymore. He stopped. That's what we need. I mean,
fair enough, but to say that Trump was a masterful,
I'm
don't.
not.
I think he instilled some fear, much like Ronald Reagan. I hate to say that because one of my biggest things is that he stole Reagan's fucking dance sheet 100%.
Like liking the country.
Dude, okay, that's just.
I mean, do you think does anyone think Biden loves the United States?
Listen, let's not forget the fact that
Does anyone believe that?
Trump supported fucking Hillary and Bill.
Yeah.
Back suited him. He is a narcissist. He does everything to make his daddy, been dead for years, happy with him.
But
so I get
it's a personality thing. I mean, Biden?
Yeah,
I mean,
but you
are we
don't
going to
want a
get
behavioral patient on your acute psych ward.
I'm just saying his actions. I wasn't like something crazy is going to happen. He had a cool head when it came to doing. Here's the crux of it. I believe that he did what was best for the country.
By the way,
I know. Actually, we got to wrap it up, man, because this should have been a short episode anyway. And
it was good though. You and I did it by ourselves. We're big boys.
We're big boys, and I will say, just for posterity, I really just wanted. This is a moment in time. After the first 2 episodes we did on this topic, and it's such a huge deal, man. I mean, this could end up really turning into a bad situation. I just felt compelled to get my thoughts down and our thoughts down in the moment.
Listen, as far as your sentiment, I fucking 100%. I fear your sentiment, and that's why I have to oppose it. I fear that you're right
about Palestinians and Hamas.
I fear that you're right. But I still, my belief in human nature trumps my fear of your being right. If you're right, and 6 weeks later, who's going to be the first person that goes, "You were right, man. I was wrong." I'm going to be. I admit my faults all the time.
And again, I'm not trying to be right. Like, I'm not trying to. I'm just saying I can't.
This is your observation.
It's so different than what I see presented to me in the media. Like, my thoughts are not getting addressed in the media. Like, the things that I think about, I don't see written about in most media.
Right,
like,
so suddenly you have faith in the media?
I don't. No, I don't have faith in the media. That's my whole point. They aren't.
Why do you think that suddenly we're going to get all these people that are telling us how it really is?
Because
screaming from the rafters.
Because I think it would eke out somewhere. I mean, like I said, and Iran's a great choice. Iran has.
It would get squashed. I'll bet you if you look hard enough, you're going to find that. I'll bet you.
I'm going to look for it. I have looked for it, but I'm going to make a special point of looking for it.
And then we can discuss this on our next Hamas Israel episode, because this ain't fucking going away for a while.
Yeah.
And again, if you're right, it saddens me, but I'll acknowledge it. You know what I mean? I mean,
it's horrible. It's you're talking about a society that for multiple generations, an entire society that for multiple generations has been indoctrinated to be genocidal maniacs, basically. I mean, and if they aren't themselves, they support it and they give aid and comfort to it.
And the scary part about if you're right is that in Germany it took like 10 years.
And in Germany, people denied it. Like, I mean, there were like people that were like hiding it. Like, they hid the concentration camps. In Gaza, they went in with GoPros and filmed it and then showed it proudly. That's a whole other mentality, man. That's like
evil. It's like evil. I like when I think Hamas, and I'm gonna stick to Hamas.
They're ISIS.
Proven wrong.
Yeah,
they're fucking evil. They are
Yeah,
fucking
there's no
terrorists.
question.
Who can fucking kill a baby, man?
And the fact that they did it for terror, I mean, they did it for the terrorist
They
purpose. They filmed
probably
it on
killed the
purpose.
babies because that was the biggest way they could affect the
Here,
people they're attacking.
another
To
Occam's razor.
demoralize.
But here's another Occam's razor thing. So if you're the leader of Hamas, who's
Okay,
not
I got to correct you. It's Occam's razor.
Occam's razor, yeah, sorry. If you're the leader,
You're like,
if-
I'm thinking of a GoPro on an ox.
so Occam's razor. I'm saying if you're the head of Hamas, right, and you're in your little jacuzzi in Qatar, and you're getting your millions of dollars from the UN, and not sending it to your people, and you come up with this plan, which had been in the works for a few years, and you direct your people to slaughter women and children, to film it, to torture
Broadcast.
people, to bring back hostages, anyway, all this stuff, right? This is what your plan is. And you say, hey, I'm going to send all these people in to do this thing. Where are the people that are like, man, this guy needs to go? Why did he get us into this? And then here's the other thing too. What did this leader, this is my main point, what did this leader and these leaders of Hamas, what did they think was going to happen? Anyone that plays chess, right, and who has played chess,
7 moves ahead.
You think ahead. You don't make a move. You anticipate your opponent's move, and you make a move to try to get them to do something you want them to do. Well, so I have to believe that these people, I don't think they're dumb. So what were they expecting to happen?
No,
I
you
would
should
say
never think your enemy is dumb.
No.
You should totally
Yeah. If
expect
you
what they
I'm
offer.
saying, but if you're this
Tell
Hamas
them.
leader, you know exactly what was going to happen because you have decades of experience and decades of history to look at. You go into southern Israel, central southern Israel, and you slaughter 1,400 people horrendously, like
Mostly
civilians.
young people.
Yeah, and then you grab 250 hostages and go back into Gaza. What do you think's going to happen? They knew Israel was going to go in there, guns blazing, and the whole reason is because they want the civilian casualties. They are using people in Gaza who are not militants as cannon fodder because they want the death toll. And the Hamas, their own health ministry has been reporting these numbers with no corroboration, and the Western media just parrots these numbers of people dying.
And
right?
see,
Who knows? Are they militants? Are they children? Who knows? We don't know.
Here's something to what you just said, and I want you to consider this.
They knew this was going to happen.
Well, I'm going to chink at your armor a little here too.
Yeah.
They used non-militants as their shields, which means by that very nature that those people were most likely not people that went out and killed. At bare minimum, they were expendable because they didn't play the party rule or whatever. So I just want you to consider that if they have that wealth of bodies that they can throw on top of a target that's going to get hit, chances are that there's more of those people because they need that constant flow of bodies they can throw in front of people. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to throw the loyalist.
But
they're going to throw people.
Israel,
so what I'm saying, okay, so let's call it 50-50. Let's call it 50-50. 50% fucking hates it. I'm thinking if 50% hates it, it's probably more like 60 or 80% because 50-50 is just a stupid number in this kind of situation. But do you see where I'm coming from there? That they have to have that wealth of people that they can just throw in front of it, that they're not expending anybody that's useful to them except as targets.
Well, yeah, I mean, their mission is they're not going to defeat Israel militarily.
They're not going to defeat Israel.
And they know that.
Not.
No, but they think they can defeat Israel in the world's eyes, like in especially with a Western press that is anti-Semitic on its own, in my opinion.
Depressing.
And is just wait. You want to talk about choreography? Like they're just waiting to run with these stories that the Hamas information.
They're waiting for one Israeli soldier to do something barbaric because he's shell shocked from fucking 50 years of living in this, and does do something that is atrocious and that normally the world would find atrocious, but because it's Israel right now and he does this, he walks into a school and blows up a bunch of kids, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
That's going to fucking justify them. And then everybody's going to be pro-Palestine and anti-Israel, and it's going to fucking suck. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I hope
I
that
don't know.
prediction does not come true, by the way.
yeah.
I can live with that not being right. I'm fine with it. Anyway,
Well, I think it's about that time
I think
on
we've
the
been on
show.
long enough.
Is it this or is it this? I think we need to
I think it
and
I
I
think
am going to say goodnight to Zeus because I gotta go. So
Oh,
I'm gonna,
absolutely. I think we've been on long enough. I think it's
right.
about time we wrap things up.